Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything that revolves around fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
And for the first time in 2023, Happy New Year's to you listeners. We
We are
are
Tottenham,
recording.
super Tottenham from the lane.
Come on, you Irons. Do you know, obviously, one of the big joys of doing a podcast and the show is the listeners. We've had a lot of lovely messages over the last couple of days. Thank you for the year and all the work you've done. But then there are times where we go to the effort of recording like on a Sunday evening after the games with the tight turnaround for the listeners. And I don't appreciate them right now, James, to be honest with you, because, oh, mate. And actually, I should probably add a little bit more context. People are like, why are you so annoyed? It's not actually even the rest of the Premier League or even FPL. I think just my own team is what's been a bit annoying this weekend. Same for you, right? So I think plenty of people are tuning in for some Schadenfreude or whatever the word might be.
Rants and bants and
yes,
and all that jazz. This is the thing, whether it's Sunday night, whether it's Monday morning. I mean, it's got to get spoken about. So let's get on with it.
No. Well, I'll tell you what, listeners, and I'll put it straight out there. Early doors. We obviously do a show each and every week on Patreon called Tottenham, which is a deeper dive into Tottenham and West Ham from a fan's perspective.
I ain't doing that this week.
It's Wednesday, right? Isn't it? But this month in January with our Patreon, everyone's getting bumped up a tier. So at the basic tier, which is like £3, you would get every intermediate tier podcast, and that's going to include Wednesday's Tottenham, where we're going to be getting mental. And I think that's going to be worth £3 on its own.
Do you know what? Let's go one better. Fuck it. Let's go one better. Let's do Tottenham on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And let's do Tottenham on Thursday.
Oh, we're playing twice, aren't we? Yes. Double Tottenham. And let's see if Thursday's as bad as we think. Are we both Wednesday night? We are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, fuck it. Sod it. Let's do Wednesday and Thursday.
That's like a double cheeseburger. Yeah. There's so many stories about Friday night and the West Ham game, James, that I can't even get into it. Like, it's not even the fact that we lost the game, but the train delays. I was out of my house for about 8 hours for 90 minutes worth of football. So yeah, it was not a good evening. But
I'm sorry. I mean, I wasn't out for 8 hours today, but I didn't see any football. So congratulations to you, mate.
FPL though is why a lot of listeners are here. Game week 18 is now over. We're about to hit double game week with Chelsea and Fulham having a double game week in game week 19. I'm relying on the data on live FPL as it stands at the moment, James. I have had a small red arrow. I think I've gone down from let me just put it up, from 420k to 440k. I was 412 and I'm 443. So almost as good as Gray. It's a 7% drop. But considering it wasn't a great week overall, I'm going to take that as not too bad. I had Darwin's assist on Friday, Haaland as captain, Rashford's goal, Martinelli did well for me, and Trippier's clean sheet and BPS. That was it, really. I didn't have any other points. I had Cancelo's no-show, which meant Ben White came off the bench. The 59-minute hero.
Just one of the many subplots of a very interesting FPL weekend. I mean, you say you basically got a grey.
7% down, so it's not great, but
I mean,
it is a dip.
I really am going to claim it as a grey, mate, because I got 55 this week. Return. I bought Sven Botman as my Suj James replacement, so returns for him, trips. Did you start Pereira?
No,
I started Pereira, Rashford, Martinelli's 10, captain Haaland. I too had Ben White come in as the João Cancelo replacement. So I got 55, Suj. I've gone up from 580,200 to 579,700.
I didn't even know if rank rises that small were even possible.
So I've literally gone up less than 500 places.
Wow.
But it will show as a green according to what Live FPL Net currently says. So I'm going to bank that as the highlight of my shit fucking weekend. Suj, what about you?
Well, at least there was no major injuries or doubts at the moment that we know of, like the Suj James situation after game week 17. So
You say
I'm
that,
looking
but
at my squad. I don't have any fires.
you went for Robertson, didn't you?
Yes. Oh, was he injured?
Well, he's got to be doubtful. They not flagged him.
No, he has not been
But
flagged.
he went off with a dead leg the other night.
Okay.
He might be all right for tomorrow.
Sorry, he is flagged.
Gonna say.
Knock, 75% chance of playing. And so my transfer plans are really going to be lastminute.com tomorrow in the afternoon, based on if we get any Liverpool team news. Rockstar, if you're listening, hint, hint.
I think Rockstar's somewhat limited with what he can give out these days, unfortunately. I mean, as Liverpool's playing tomorrow, you should get the information, at least in terms of if he's travelled or not. I would say in your case with Robertson, it was reported dead leg. We haven't got it factually yet, but if that's what it is, your worst case is he's going to miss this week and then it's back for you, mate. So that's probably, having made the decision to go there for yourself, that's probably a hold, I would have thought. What would you end up playing with if you just left
Ben White
Robertson?
at home to Newcastle.
Oh, well, that's perfectly reasonable, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'd have only Kepa and Pereira with the doubles, but then Trippier, Cancelo, Ben White, Andreas, Salah, Martinelli, Rashford, Martial, Darwin, and Haaland.
Okay. I mean, no, I made my transfer yesterday. I saw enough of watching that fucking miserable whinge bag play up front for Manchester United yesterday lunchtime. He's too depressing to own as an FPL.
Martial, agreed.
Yeah, sod him. Fuck him. I bought Mitrovic.
Even with Bournemouth at home.
Yeah, and listen, he's Bournemouth at home. He could well return. Brilliant, whoopie do. I would have started with Mitrovic in the first place if it wasn't for the doubts. And to be honest, the only thing that's would have partly been holding me back is that he's on 4 yellows. I'd fancy Mitrovic one game away to Leicester just to do just as well at home as Martial at home to Bournemouth, to be totally honest. He's just a bit of a joyless FPL asset, in my opinion, at the moment, Martial. He doesn't look 100% fit. I said on the last pod that we did that although he'd scored against Forest, I didn't get a particularly good vibe about his performance. I didn't get that from Saturday as well. So I bought Mitrovic last night, mate.
7 million before he went up to 7.1.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's likely to get another rise as well, isn't he, really? Mitrovic, he's going to be very popular.
He'll be very popular. The only decision for me really now is just stick the armband on him or not.
Oh, that's not a consideration for me at all.
I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, the one thing we're literally recording basically straight after Chelsea have finished their game against Nottingham Forest. I mean, what did it make you feel about Chelsea assets? Made me feel like I'm pleased I bought Mitrovic last night.
Yeah.
It's what it made me feel.
Yeah.
So, no. What I mean is it's still a good Haaland fixture, I think is the point. So, and they were obviously a wounded animal after yesterday's shock result against Everton. It's probably shock result of the season near enough. That's more shocking than Brentford going there and winning, that Everton managed to go there and get something yesterday. It sounds like the defensive display they put in, they deserved it, really. Not that I've seen a huge amount of the game.
I managed to, I watched all of that game yesterday, and we'll talk about it when we get into the game.
I'll leave it to you then, mate.
But yeah, I mean, one thing is you've got to be ready to put a shift in and take the fight to them and disrupt Manchester City, and they did. So, let's go into the games. This is a quick turnaround. Obviously, listeners, don't forget that the deadline tomorrow is 4 p.m. UK time, because it's a 5:30 kickoff, not like an 8 p.m. kickoff. Normally, when you have just the one game, you think it's in the evening, but it's a bank holiday here in the UK tomorrow, public holiday, we should say. So it's an earlier game, so don't be caught out 4 p.m. So if you're listening to this, you've probably only got hours on the clock before you need to make your decisions. So West Ham 0, Brentford 2.
Off you go.
Honestly, that first half was the best that West Ham have played so far this season.
Wow.
Change in formation. And yeah, listen, that's relative, right? That statement, it's relative to the rest of the season. Change formation for West Ham, which I was happy to see, because Moyes needed to try something, and getting the wing backs on in terms of Emerson and trying to get Soufal high was trying something different. If it meant Bowen and Ben Rama could get closer to Skamaka and maybe get Paqueta more on the ball, in that kind of more central role alongside Rice, might have yielded results. Other than the top 20% of the pitch, which is the penalty box and the final kind of, not even final third, but final 20%, James, West Ham were much better, more control of the game, kept the ball well, passed it around well. And honestly, the best football I've seen us play so far this season. We just seem to have an extra man available for the ball and kept it neat and tidy, but still lacking an attacking threat. And in the end, two stupid mistakes for their goals. Like, you can't be conceding off a sloppy throw-in like that and not be first to the ball, or at least defensively be much more on it. And I don't know what Cresswell was doing. Like, we honestly spent the next 3 or 4 minutes of that half after he let De Silva just run by him as if I don't even know what he was doing, James. And
it looked like he was running backwards.
I don't know what he was doing, and we just kind of spent the whole of half time. I had to have a pint at half time because I was just that confused. And when you're 2-0 down, it then got worse. Like, normally we'd think that we'd get better and show more chance of scoring, but then Brentford can play their game and slow it down a lot, and ended up looking less likely that we were going to score. The game started better. We were better in the first half, but as it went on, it became shitter. Brentford didn't offer much, but they were just clinical when they did, and that's what they do, right? They're just really clinical. Rico Henry played really high up on the left-hand side. Like, he was in the same line as Ivan Toney and Mbomo. Like, he was super high up, but then Soufal was doing the same on the opposite end. But yeah, frustrating game. I don't know what the prognosis is on Ivan Toney. Is he out now? Leg injury, 50% chance of playing.
The news from Brentford this afternoon is positive. It's good news. Obviously, the way he went down right at the end of the game, you kind of feared a worse serious knee injury and stuff. And we were kind of suspecting that Liverpool might be the last game for him anyway, as he's got till Wednesday to appeal these gambling charges. But the word from Brentford today on their official website is he might even play tomorrow.
Okay.
So he's actually a muscle problem rather than a knee injury. So he's not even completely ruled out of tomorrow. I think those who own a lot will have already sold because they will have absolutely assumed
he was out.
He's going to be out. And obviously with the gambling stuff, you think he might not play again this season, possibly. So, and we don't know if Liverpool will or won't be either way. It's last game of the season. We have no idea what's going to happen with that investigation and stuff. But I guess those who owned probably thought Mitrovic double. I think a lot will have already made that move. And I think, look, with the fixture, Brentford are playing Liverpool, despite the fact Liverpool certainly will give up chances, they always do, then a lot of people will still make that move.
Yeah, and it's a reasonable move. And look, Declan Rice hits the post in the first half. David Raya did pull off a couple of decent saves. But all in all, yeah, really disappointing for West Ham. Just don't look like we're in a position that we can score goals. Defensively, stupid mistakes again, leaking goals. Better control in midfield though. I did think that we passed the ball around a bit better in the first half. Second half was pony, but yeah, not great at all.
What was the vibe like on the ground?
But this is the interesting thing. First half, it was good. Like, the players were putting a shift in, right? You know, like, we got Soufal on. Soufal is our Emerson Royale for you. Like, it puts a shift in, works hard, runs around, chases.
I think your Emerson is Emerson, by the way.
You can't. He's not that good on the ball, but it's not his fault that he's not that good. He's just not that good, right? But we didn't buy a Roberto Carlos or a £50 million right back. He's like £5 million worth of right back or wing back. You can't blame him.
He was outstanding in his first season for you, mate.
Who's Soufal?
Yeah.
But he was chasing everything. There's nothing in my mind that they didn't put a shift in again, but just lacking in quality. 10 minutes to go, mate. Fucking 50% empty. I think rather than choose to boo the team off the pitch,
people left.
It was 50% empty, 60% empty. Yeah. Really, like, I've taken a couple of pictures.
Did you stay till the end?
89 minutes. Then I needed a piss. Okay. So I thought I was going to have a piss.
What I'm saying is, across those 89 minutes, you obviously floundered a bit. Was there calls for Moyes to go or anything like that?
No,
Okay.
it was.
So
It
it
was
didn't turn toxic because it did at my place
not.
today, mate.
No. It wasn't. It wasn't booing. It wasn't Moyes out. It was a sigh of like frustration, but you couldn't fault the effort.
Do you think that was
Half
partly
time though.
was that partly because doing things like dropping Paqueta into a deeper position is what people had been calling for?
Yeah,
So it's like people have called for it.
yeah. I
Oh
can't
shit!
criticize him for
It still
changing it
didn't
up.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's a lot
I
of
think
tactical
so.
reasons why it didn't, mate. Like the thing is, Emerson, if you're going to play him as a wing back, you want him overlapping, running around the outside. But Ben Rama was forever hugging the touchline, which means that Emerson can't overlap him because he's always out wide and stuff. So look, it was what it was. Pressure's definitely mounting on Moyes, but it didn't turn toxic. It wasn't booing and shouting and screaming and all that kind of stuff.
Just a couple of brief observations because I've not watched a lot of it, but the back three that played for you are, in my opinion, your full fifth and sixth choice best centre backs.
Correct.
I think the best choice back three would probably be Kera, Zuma, and Aguerd. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to move to this more permanently, then you've got three better centre backs at some point are going to come into this team. Correct. I also think, and you can correct me if you disagree, but I do think it's time to change the goalkeeper now, mate. It's time Areola went in goal for me.
It's tough, you know.
You're not happy about that.
Listen, Loris, from what I heard, Loris made a mistake today or could have done better on the goal, right?
Listen, Areola
Are you ready for him to leave?
Areola is 10 times the player that Fraser Forster is. There isn't a conversation in my club, mate.
True. But you've got what I'm talking about is you've got years of service built up in a player, right? So it's maybe you're actually a better judge of that because you're judging it on cold fact of goalkeeping, whereas I've got years of Fabianski serving us well and saving penalties. Fair. So I've got bias there. I've got bias there with Fabianski history, right? So
okay. Why has Jared Bowen been shit all season, mate?
No idea, mate. He's getting kicked a fair amount, but
him and Heung-min Son start a club together or something.
Yeah, honestly,
what's happened with the pair of them?
That's just two opposite sides of exactly the same situation.
Yeah,
he's been rubbish.
We've got a lot of similarities between my club and your club. Just yours is a bit shitter.
Oh dear, yeah.
Brentford are a nightmare team to play against, mate. Very good.
They are, but they weren't that good. Like they didn't offer much, but they obviously on the throw-ins and set pieces, they're always a danger and they're clinical. And that's all you need to be. They don't need to be more than clinical, and they were.
They are
for taking the win.
Just a point on them as well. I was thinking about this in terms of before Friday night, if Monday might prove to be Tony's last game of the season, if he was to get a long-term ban. I'm absolutely certain that football club will be prepared and have a plan. They won't just go, "Oh shit, we didn't see that coming." You know they're ready for it, didn't you?
Yeah,
and they'll no, I don't think so. I think they'll go and invest in something that they believe they can get at cheaper value than something's worth. Or they'll go and identify the right loan sign until the end of the season or something, and they'll cover it. They're going to be absolutely fine. But obviously, he would be a huge miss. That goes without saying. He's so talismanic for them.
Nothing from both sides, though, from an FPL point of view at the moment that's of interest for me.
I mean, for yours, no. I think those who were probably looking to gamble would have done it prior to Brentford, and I think a few have gone and gambled on a Ben Rama or a Cresswell. For Brentford, no, I don't think so. Not with Liverpool next. It's worth saying after Liverpool, Bournemouth at home, Leeds away, Southampton at home. If Tony's not been banned and he's available, I'm very interested in finding him ahead of game week 20. Yeah,
for sure. Liverpool 2, Leicester 1. I didn't obviously watch this because I was at my place, but what are your thoughts around this game?
It's funny.
I've heard Darwin again should have pulled and didn't.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It was his usual chaos. The game wasn't as enjoyable as Liverpool's game at Villa. And to be honest, at half-time, Leicester must have been wondering how they were losing. Because for the first half hour, they played so well. But I also think it comes with a caveat of Liverpool were so fucking average.
Really?
No, yeah, just so ordinary. They obviously missed Fabinho, who had been given the night off because I think his other half had gone into labour. And Henderson played in the deeper of the midfield three. And we know they've got problems in that area anyway. And have you seen Dewsbury Hall's goal?
Mm-mm.
I mean, he walks through them, Suj.
Yeah.
He walks through them from the halfway line and scores. They just parted like the Reds. Robertson goes to play an offside because he thinks the ball's going to get played through to Perez, which is completely understandable. But the rest of them have all just shunted to the right-hand side. And as the ball comes back to Dewsbury Hall, he just walks through them and rolls it home, mate. And that's like from the halfway line.
Yeah.
And he was really good in that first half, by the way. That was the best I'd seen Dewsbury Hall play since his performance at Old Trafford towards the back end of last season. It was the best I'd seen of him this season. But yeah, Liverpool weren't at it. And then they scored these two absolute...
21 shots, 5 on target. No.
They scored these two absolute comedy goals from Wout Faes, who someone said the correct pronunciation is farce. And it was farcical.
No,
Wout Faes, farcical. He scored two of the best own goals you'll ever see, mate, in the same game. I mean, legendary stuff. David Luiz was out there, mate. Body, mind, spirit. He was on that pitch, mate. And he has made a real difference to Leicester. We've done the whole side show Bob joke thing at the start with him, but he has obviously made a real big difference to Leicester. The problem is when he plays like that, oh, wow. Because you could say he's unlucky, but his decision-making on both goals is so bad. On the first one, we've all seen it back on the TV now, except it sounds like you haven't, that Danny Ward shouts for it. And he still goes to play the ball and ends up thumping it 30 yards in the air and managing to finish it into the top corner, unbelievably. And then on the second one, Núñez goes through, and Núñez is typically really unlucky with the finish. It hits the post, and Faes is running back to his own goal, and he's got to clear it with his left foot and just put it out for a throw-in. Decides at the last minute, no, actually, I'm going to do it with my right foot and go the other way, and just buries it top bin, doesn't he? Like, it's just literal car crash. Unless you were a Leicester fan, you must have been laughing. Probably Evertonians weren't laughing about it either. But yeah, it was comedy stuff, and Liverpool must have been thinking, fucking got away with that a bit there because it's been a challenging game. And from then on, to be honest, on the other side in the second half, I didn't overly think Leicester were going to turn the game around. They also suffered the blow of losing Patson Daka through injury quite early in the game as well. But yeah, Liverpool, I repeat what I said last week, it's not right. It's not right. And it'll improve with players coming back to fitness and Cody Gakpo's on board. We don't think he's going to play at Brentford tomorrow. He has been given a price surge of 8 million and a midfielder. And he's certainly one to keep an eye on. But after Brentford, they've got Brighton away and Chelsea at home. So I think there's a little period where you can have a watch and decide and just check out where he's going to play in the team and stuff. If you're a Núñez owner, I think generally it's still a hold. Unless you want to go and buy Mitch Fish this week. I wouldn't be going, oh, fuck, I'm sick of Núñez. I'm going to go and buy Havertz because of a double now. So I genuinely wouldn't. I would just keep hold of him. Mo's obviously fine to keep hold of. I think, like, for people like you had gone on Robertson, Suj, I think it's probably just take whatever the cards are dealt tomorrow, unless the information comes out that there's a bigger problem, and let your Hugo Buenos and stuff potentially take care of the game week for you. But yeah, not great, Liverpool. Leicester, Fulham at home, Forest away next two. But until Maddison's fit, no interest.
No, agreed. Wolves 0, Manchester United 1. Marcus Rashford coming off the bench to rescue Manchester United in the end with a very, very well taken goal. He's on form now, isn't he? He's back to his best. It's that 5 in a row he scored. Yeah, I was surprised to see him benched because obviously no one would have expected this disciplinary issue to have caused that to happen. You see the team sheet and you're like, oh, okay, what's happened here? But yeah, he was benched, but did come off the bench and save Manchester United.
Well, it just shows that even the ITKs can't always get it right, because quite obviously this would have been the early kickoff. And you would have had the information pre-deadline that Marcus Rashford was starting for Manchester United. That information would have been wrong because that information changed very close to kickoff. Because certainly in the morning, Marcus Rashford was going to be in the Manchester United team. Marcus Rashford was left out of the team because he turned up late to the team meeting.
Yeah, Slept in. He said that himself in the
said that
interview, right?
himself. And do you know what? The fact that Rashford came out and said it, it was just another kind of feather in the cap for Ten Hag. I thought that Ten Hag had gone.
Because Ten Hag was asked first, and he said, "I'm
Ten
not going
Hag
to talk
went,
about
no,
it."
that's internal. He's had the punishment. He's come on. He's scored. That's it. Forget about it. And Rashford's interview was it was kind of a bit kind of school kiddish, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like, I fucked up, done it. Tough. But it's a lot easier when you come on and scored in your team and won, right? And he could have scored the second. Obviously, that was a unfortunately obvious handball that it bounced off his arm there. But I'm with you on the
celebrate?
Martial.
I hate that.
I don't know.
I just feel like as a player, you're not. You could think, I'm going to kid VAR here. They're not going to know it hit my hat. You surely in that moment he's run away and he's thinking, because I can get the adrenaline and stuff. If you celebrate, but as he's doing it, he must be thinking that hit my hand. It's not going to count, even though it's kind of shit because he doesn't influence the goal in any way. Like whether it hit his arm, his side, or whatever.
It's his arm,
But technically, that's the rule, so it's fine. But I did think, don't celebrate, you prick. You've just ruined that for all the FPL managers and the Manchester United fans there, who obviously think you've sealed the game. He's unlike with Martial, he's bang on it. And it's not to say Martial can't return against Bournemouth, and I would expect Martial to score against Bournemouth because they're playing Bournemouth. As much as, to be honest, they could put anyone through the middle and I'd fancy them to score against Bournemouth on, I think it's Tuesday night, isn't it?
Yep.
But Rashford, you would really fancy to do well. And I wonder if there'd be one or two might stick the armband on him this week, Suj. Salah's got a tough fixture. Haaland's got a tough fixture. The players with a double don't overly appeal. I think Mitrovic is the only one I consider sticking the armband on. And for those brave enough, we'll look at Rashford's record. And I think it's 5 home games in a row he's scored in. And yeah, it's the sort of one, if you've got the cojones, yeah, I don't mind. I don't have the cojones. I put my hands up and say that now. Yeah, he's in super form. It wasn't a vintage game of football. It wasn't a vintage performance from United, but it did also always feel that if they scored first or if they scored, they would win the game. Because Wolves' ongoing problem, as we already know, is obviously going to be about scoring goals. Villa away and West Ham at home are challenges for Wolves ahead of fixtures against City and Liverpool. I do think they'll get stronger with their manager, and you never feel like they're going to get turned over really, really badly. I think they'll get out of this, Wolves, but I still believe they need to buy another forward in this window because I don't think Costa or Jimenez are going to do the business for them.
Yeah, I'm looking around over my shoulder and a little bit up the table, obviously, where we are at the moment. And I'm thinking, thank God, because I think there might be 3 or 4 teams that are just a little bit worse than us. I don't think Wolves are one of them, to be honest with you. I think Southampton, Forest, Bournemouth at the moment are the 3 that I could see slipping in. Sorry, Bournemouth fans.
Are Bournemouth not above you?
They are above us at the moment.
Just saying,
they are above us. Yeah, I know.
How are you managing
they're
that,
the 3 that I see that might save us from ourselves, basically.
Do you think you're in proper trouble?
It's getting that way.
These next 3 are big for you, aren't they?
If we can't score goals, then yeah, for sure. But speaking of Bournemouth, obviously, they ended up losing at home to Palace, and neither of us called this, to be honest.
No, and it was pretty limp as well, by the way. Palace were well-deserving winners. Bournemouth stuck with back 3/back 5 that they'd played at Chelsea, I think. Well, I'm not convinced that Jadon Anthony did play wing back. He's relying on SofaScore there, and I really shouldn't do that. No, looks like it was more of a back 4 actually. They lost Phil Billing, and him and Tavernier have really been chipping in. Tavernier's obviously not back and returned yet. They've got a problem which has now been well identified, and plenty of people are speaking about it now from set pieces. Conceded the most in the league, and it's by a distance. And you look at certain games coming up, and teams are going to target it. I mean, I look at them going to Brentford in game week 20. I bet they concede from a set piece in that one, for example. And once you're putting yourself in that position, you're making life very, very difficult for yourselves. Just very quietly, the good vibe that they were having with the performances under Gary O'Neill prior to World Cup, the takeover going through, already kind of feels like it's dissipated in 1 week with back-to-back 2-0 defeats. Chelsea, you don't expect anything, but they'd have looked at Palace before going to United and thinking, want to get something there. They could easily get beat, say 2-0 again in the week. Suddenly you're 3 games without scoring, and you've already said it. We all still think they're going to be in trouble. Yeah, we know that they're going to spend some money in this window. I think I certainly know Neil Grover, our Bournemouth correspondent, is kind of, he'd said it on COTC that he thought it was a mistake that they'd given the job to Gary O'Neill permanently. And I wonder if they might change on that, I don't think that's impossible.
I'm with you actually.
That they look at this during this month and go, do you know what? He earned the right, but we maybe want to change it. Maybe someone becomes available who they didn't think was available or something. And they decide to change it. I don't think that might sound ridiculous, but I don't think it is. And I think they might. Do they want to go and spend 50 million on Gary O'Neill players and then change it? And by the way, 50 million might be sort of the low end minimum of what they might spend in this month. Actually, we'll do some business. I think their first 11's decent, but yeah, there was just a bad vibe from the weekend from them. They had a shot on target near the end. Was their first of the game. Was like ironic cheers and stuff. They were well beat. Palace, it was a big result for them because they were flat as against Fulham. Did something a little bit different in this game. Zaha a bit more on the left, Elise further to the right. Jordan Ayew working the channels. It'd be interesting to see if that sticks for the Tottenham game on Wednesday night. But I kind of like the idea of Elise, Eze, and Zaha behind someone who will do the donkey work, if you will, and maybe not be a 15 goal a season man, although he did admittedly score at the weekend. Lovely header from a corner. But get that trio behind that have got someone to do the legwork for them up top could be pretty dangerous.
They needed those 3 points massively.
Yeah, because it's bad.
Awful.
Yeah, but
until the end of March.
The next fixture doesn't look so bad today, does it?
I think you've got a bit of a bias from seeing your own team be a bit shit. But really, if I said Tottenham, Chelsea, Newcastle,
I think I have every
United,
right to have that bias.
Brighton, Brentford, Liverpool, Villa, City, Arsenal. So other than Brentford, Villa, that's the top 7.
Yeah, but even Brentford and Villa, they're both away.
Horrible games.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's all top 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Brighton. So top 8 plus Brentford and Villa. Horrible. All the way to the end of March. So it's tough. They're going to be really glad.
They're going to be all right. And do you know what with them?
But we're not buying into their assets. Mate.
They'll pick up some results over this period. Wilfried Zaha owners, and I know there are a few who've gone in and will obviously be extremely disappointed. I'm not saying hold, but I'm saying you might get something on Wednesday night.
Okay. Fulham 2, Southampton 1. We both thought that Fulham would win, and they did win. Paulinho, love the guy, but that's not because of FPL, because I'll never own him in this format of the game. 11 points, mate. Nice and tidy. James Ward-Prowse again with a James Ward-Prowse free kick to cancel out his own goal.
So James Ward-Prowse in the space of 2 games has missed the penalty, scored a rebound, scored an own goal, and scored a free kick.
What enough? It's a combined total of 12 points over the 2 games. If you're an owner, you take it, no doubt.
I suppose you would, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, you tell me, was there anything to take away tactically from this game? Anything that puts you off or not off Mitrovic? Penalty miss, obviously, was a bit of a frustration.
I think the takeaway would be that Southampton were a little bit unlucky, actually.
Okay.
Which if the XG obviously got thrown in Fulham's favour because of the late Mitrovic missed penalty right at the end of the game. Otherwise, all the reports I was getting during the game from the Saints guys we know was this was the best they'd played in quite a while, and were pretty unfortunate to go behind. And there was an element of fortune, obviously, of Pereira's deflected shot going in. They were better. Yet it feels like, and we keep speaking about teams with big little kind of runs, they've got Forest at home in midweek. And can I be honest with you, it's another one already, but I think if Forest were to go there and win, I think there'd be Saints fans already questioning if disappointment of Nathan Jones is right. He's flip-flopping between systems. Romain Perraud was the only one who was getting any interest from an FPL perspective. He was left out. Defensively, they're in the old position of need to score 3 goals a game to win a game because they concede way too many goals. If they don't sort that out or find a way of having a stable, whether it's a back 4, back 5, whatever they want to do with it, find some consistency over this period, they don't score enough goals to get themselves out of shit. Well, when we was laughing at Leicester, obviously, earlier in the season. But when we said, Leicester had to win 3 goals to win a game, you knew that they were capable of it, in fairness. Southampton don't feel like that. Forest, Everton, next 2. You can't lose both of them.
The thing is, with both of them, what we've seen, we'll talk about Forest shortly because they obviously just finished their game with Chelsea, but Everton that we're talking about now, they're both going to bring energy and a fight to the game as well. I think Everton have been putting a shift in a lot of their games, even if they've been lacking for quality. And Forest defensively have been right. Is the Forest game at City Ground or
no? It's at St Mary's.
St Mary's. So they've been better at home than Forest, but still, both of those games are going to be difficult games because both teams have got good work rate.
Forest's away record has been atrocious. They've only scored once
Yeah,
on
it's
the
a
road.
shame it's not at the City Ground
But then
for them. But
he absolutely, if it was at the City Ground, I'd fancy Forest to beat them definitely. Yeah. I think Southampton have got to win that game against Forest, and then they'll want to get something at Everton as well. Then after that, Villa at home, Brentford away, Wolves at home. It's a good little run. Still not seen enough to make me think, because I'd said that I thought that with Brighton and Fulham being Saints' first 2, that the run was disguised as a little bit more difficult than perhaps what it was, and perhaps Southampton's good run kind of does start from now. But you're not looking at them for FPL, are you, mate?
Not even.
No way. They got to do some work in this transfer market as well. I think Fulham not at their best, but they're doing amazingly well. What are they, 7th?
Yeah, really well.
Doing incredible at the moment. That spine of the team has performed really well. With Tim Ream is a player I've written off in the past, had a very good season. Pereira's a good player. Paulinho, we speak about on the Sky podcast all the time. Fantastic. And although Mitrovic missed the penalty, I mean, that didn't make me think, oh my God, he's missed the pen. Yeah. All it made me think was, I've dodged that.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was sitting here last week going, I've missed his fucking hole. This week I'm thinking, okay, I've missed that one. That's a little bit. I felt like one I was owed a little bit. So no, I mean, that doesn't put me off. You just look at it even more and go, he's missed 2 penalties this season. His returns could be even higher than what they are. And should he play twice in the double, you'd certainly expect him to return, wouldn't you? And although Leicester and Chelsea on paper, they're tough fixtures, he'll have chances. They're so tailored to play into his strengths, Mitrovic. And I think that's really important. Pereira's obviously a great shout for the game week. I think both Willian and Decordova-Reid are reasonable if people want to go short term. If they are, I need a doubler. In terms of defensively, I would favour Ream, and I would just favour Ream purely because he will definitely play.
Locked.
I think Anthony Robinson is probably next in line for that. And I think Issa Diop now has put himself in a position where he is first choice over Tosin Adarabioyo. But that has changed back and forth a couple of times, and it could do again, possibly. Kenny Tete now looks like he's establishing at right back, but it's another one that I think could change. So if I were desperate to go and buy a Fulham defensive player, I would go Tim Ream, because that's the one that, bar an injury, will certainly play twice. Did score last week at Palace in the league, so there is a small set-piece threat there as well. Generally, I wouldn't be looking at them defensively. They don't keep many clean sheets. They didn't here.
Let's talk about Manchester City 1, Everton 1. Everton, again, despite their good result here, well, a good result away at City and being a draw, I'm not particularly looking at from an FPL point of view, but they obviously set up with 3 at the back in terms of Godfrey, Cody and Tarkovsky, and then Mikolenko and Patson. 2 holders in front in Onana and Gay, but you could really chuck in Iwobi into that as well, because the amount of defensive work he did, and he's obviously with his big dreadlocks really noticeable. It's like Iwobi's popping up in the box, making clearances and tackles and that kind of thing. Was really good. And I think what Everton did is one thing being defensive, James, but if you turn it into a scrap as well, and drag City out of their mindset of being able to play football, then it disrupts their rhythm really well. And they took it to the edge, I thought, in terms of like fouls and winding Haaland up. Haaland, Godfrey, I'm sure that the channel that I watched it on were highlighting the battle that the two of them, they were fucking at each other all game.
Haaland was acting like a child, wasn't he? Haaland was acting like a child. Let's get this right.
But he was getting wound up. But then even when he ran across...
All we've done for 5 months is praise him. And rightly so. He was acting like a spoiled child.
Okay. I probably hadn't thought about it enough to know whether I agree or disagree, but he definitely got pulled out of his mindset, right? And even De Bruyne, like jumping in with a tackle, 2-foot tackle at one point, or studs up kind of tackle. I think City just lost their heads a little bit, and Everton turned it into a scrap, and then also defended well and bodies on the line and that kind of thing as well. And City just didn't have any rhythm. You know, I've seen games like this, and you're 15 minutes out, and you think City's still going to turn it on. Like, they're just going to pile the pressure, and eventually...
Did it feel like that?
Crack. No. Even when 11 minutes went up at a time, I thought...
I saw that because I thought, it sounds like City aren't going to score, and then 11 minutes, what?
It felt...
They'll score.
They were going to have chances, but they weren't going to score. You know, that's what I felt like. Yeah, sure, they'll have chances, but I don't feel like they're going to crack it. And Everton were up for it. They thought they're going to turn this into a scrap, make it a defensive game, and they nicked. I mean, their XG was 0.09, mate.
I don't even know what
that was.
I don't even think Damari Gray's shot was it? What a goal! I mean, that's
one shot on target, one goal, simple.
What's a goal? Look, the fact that Everton made it a scrap and seemed to have taken City out of their comfort zone, I think is all praise to them, mate, because there was no other way they was going to get a result in the game. So good luck to them. Congrats to them.
Agreed. City, what's your thoughts around this rotation situation now? Because a lot of people are going to be worried about Cancelo, Foden, and that kind of thing.
I think
surely Pep's got to now just whack on Walker, Cancelo.
Walker's not so clear. Laporte obviously missed out from the squad at the weekend. We don't know if he's maybe now got an issue. So actually, to be honest, Aki and Akanji and Stones have all been used in fullback positions this season. So it's only really Cancelo, and obviously Foden let's come back to him. Cancelo will play at Stamford Bridge. I'm almost certain of that, Suj. I don't think this is like I see people saying, Cancelo's on some sort of naughty step for some reason. No, I think it's just the case that he's come back from the World Cup later than most of the rest of the squad. All the others, bar John Stones, were out earlier. And Nathan Aki, sorry. Nathan Aki was out the day before, so that's forgivable. But I think he's obviously come back and for whatever reason, perhaps has not been happy with his fitness in the same way or something. I don't know. But Cancelo had started 50 of the previous 52 Premier League games. So he's now not started 4 of the last 56 or something. So look, Cancelo is too good of a footballer. I don't think he's had his best season. I don't think he had the best World Cup. Is he extremely important to the way Manchester City play football, whether he plays left back or right back? Yes. Is Guardiola a stubborn son of a bitch who might not change his mind? Yes. But will Cancelo be back in the team at Chelsea? Yeah, I'm almost certain of that. And it's not gone through my mind to sell him, actually.
Me neither.
I can understand those who perhaps went on and had no value in it from Unlimited have been obviously disappointed. And what you start doing, you start saying, well, is it worth saving the money somewhere else on Man City? Do you know what? As it stands right now, it possibly is. But I couldn't even tell you which one to save the money on and to come down to. I could only advise you and say, pick a different team. Buy an Arsenal defender, buy a Newcastle defender. So Cancelo is not my biggest fire. Even if he didn't start at Man City, my take would be he'll start at Old Trafford in the next league game when it's a double.
It's a double anyway, so you're not going to sell him before a double.
He's not going it. He's not going anywhere for me. Is he worth? Has he been worth the money this season? Arguably not. I mean, if you're going to compare him to Kieran Trippier, the answer is obviously going to be no, isn't it? But if you compare him to Trent, the answer is probably going to be yes. So depends how you want to spin your arguments there. He's not going anywhere for me. The Phil Foden one's more of a problem because you're less sure whether he comes back in or not. My opinion strongly would be that he's definitely part of Manchester City's best 11. I think the majority of City fans would now agree with that. And again, I also think he'll be back in the team against Chelsea. But the difference there is at the same value, you've got other players doing really well, or even Odegaard and Rashford saving of 1.8 or 7 or whatever, doing the business. That's an easier one to move on. To be honest, I could be sitting there making the same case. I've got Kevin De Bruyne sitting in my team and not Martin Odegaard right now, right? And how if I spin the argument that way, again, this is how you spin your arguments. KDB to Salah, has that been comparable this year? Yes. KDB on the value versus Odegaard? No. Should have Odegaard in the team, shouldn't I?
I think Almiron's fucking slapped KDB about on value.
Well, exactly, right? But that same thing. Am I going to move that right now with the double coming up in 20? No, I'm going to wait till afterwards, then potentially make a reassessment from there. So it's not my biggest problem.
7 points now. So if that drops to, that starts getting to 9-10 points, that's a lot. They can do it. I'm sure they can, but psychologically, you don't want to be at 9-10 points behind. They're gonna have to want to win every single league game now. So they're gonna know that the heat is on with Man City. So
also worth saying with KDB that the fact that he's not returned in the last 2 games is also somebody's bad idea of a miracle joke, right?
He's always there or thereabouts.
Nine key passes in the 2 games.
I think he's created 3 or 4 big chances as well.
Yeah, so it's just others haven't finished his chances as such. There's a lot been made of obviously Arsenal's fixtures and this being a difficult run. They've obviously got Newcastle, Tottenham and Man United their next 3. But City's next 3 is Chelsea away, Man United away and Tottenham at home. So a lot's been, can Arsenal hold on to what they've got? They might extend it. I mean, do you fancy City to go to win the Stamford Bridge and Old Trafford?
Yes, but it's not like City of old where I'm like, yeah, they'll be comfortable and they'll do it.
No, I think
it'll be difficult.
I think I'd expect them to win at Chelsea at the moment. But I think United away will be a very tough game
very
for them.
Very difficult game, yeah. Newcastle 0, Leeds 0. Let's wrap this one quickly. I mean, Newcastle should have won at XG of over 2, mate, and a lot of chances and good quality chances. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net in the end. Clean sheet points, though, being a lot of us are on the defensive asset. So we'll take
some of us are on the double now.
Yeah, I know. Well done.
I'd rather Leeds scored.
Yeah.
You know me. Not that I have anything personally against Newcastle. It's just I'm going to keep looking up at them, aren't I? Let's be honest about it. I guess I was going to say this result's been coming for Newcastle. That's completely unfair and not true. It's probably just a result like this was probably going to be inevitable at some stage.
Did I say 0-0 or 1-1? I can't remember what I said. I knew it was going to be a draw just because they've been winning so many games.
You did predict Leeds to get a draw, and I very much questioned that and asked you if you were out of your mind, actually. Look, they've been on an incredible run, and they've been doing it with key personnel absent, like obviously Callum Wilson, who I'm sure will come back into the team at Arsenal on Tuesday night. And it's probably a little bit of a psychological blow for them going into that particular fixture at the Emirates, because I think there were a few thinking, if you could win that one, if Arsenal slip up and then you can go to the Emirates and win, there's a few Newcastle fans wanted to dream. And I think even more so after Eddie Howe said after Leicester, he wants their fans to dream, which I quite like, actually. They're not going to be winning the league, even if they win at the Emirates on Tuesday night. They're not going to get near Arsenal, but they've done incredibly well defensively. They are just about the most solid team in this league at the moment. Very well organised. You know what the lineup's going to be every week from that perspective. So the assets are good to go. Trippier basically gets bonus points every time they keep a clean sheet. He's ridiculous.
You're not tempted with Callum Wilson. I mean, you've got Mitro over Callum Wilson. He was a name that was in the conversation.
I'll be totally honest with you, Suj. I've bought Mitrovic for 1 game week.
Right, okay.
And the kind of plan might be to go to Wilson in game week 20. What I don't like about doing that move particularly is that Mitrovic and Wilson play each other. And whenever you make that move, there's an inevitability of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But looking at the fixtures generally, Mitrovic suddenly goes into Newcastle, Tottenham, Chelsea, whereas Wilson goes into Fulham, Palace, West Ham, Bournemouth. Yeah, I've potentially got Callum Wilson earmarked for that period. So I've bought Mitrovic for the 1 game. And then I'll see how I land at the end of the game week, whether I want to hold him through those, let's say, more difficult fixtures, or whether I want to move that on to something else. Tony, as I said, if he's available as well, Suj, afterwards, Bournemouth, Leeds, Southampton. Yeah, it'd probably be Tony over Wilson if he's not banned and if he is available. Almiron is going to get benched by a lot of people this week, I think. Just as a little side note.
I've benched him as it stands at the moment.
It's probably, they're playing away to the best team in the league at the moment. And everyone wants to force Pereira in. And I've seen a few on Twitter today where it's like, fucking hell, I wouldn't want that. Like I've seen one suggesting on Twitter today, from what I've got, I'm going to have to bench Martinelli. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you don't want to do that. This is where I go find a different solution. But I do think, like, if with Pereira's double, you do play him because he's on so many set pieces and stuff as well. If something did happen to Mitrovic, he'd be on the pens as well. So you certainly do want to play Pereira, I think, this double with an expectation that he'll probably get you something across the two games. With Almiron going to Arsenal, that feels like an easy one to bench. It'd be really interesting to see what his EO is this week, how many start him and how many don't. But as I said, Newcastle got great fixtures after Arsenal. So I don't think particularly those who've got the value in Almiron. No, you're not saying. I do think Wilson will come back into the team for Arsenal. On the defensive assets, like I'm going to bench Botman, but I'm not benching Trippier.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I just think with Trips, like, I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's impossible that game could be 0-0, for example. And if it is, I wouldn't mind betting that Trippier would walk away with 9 points. He's just on the bonus every time they keep a clean sheet, mate.
It's mental. His returns are really, really good. Let's talk about Brighton 2, Arsenal 4. So, we bypassed Leeds a little bit because I know you're going to tell me that there's so much good there that they're going to beat my team on Wednesday, and I don't even want to hear it.
Can I be honest with you? Yeah, probably.
Brighton 2, Arsenal 4. Friend of the show, Clayton, Arsenal fan, was messaging me a couple of days before, really worried about Brighton. At 3-0, I said to him, what are you worried about, mate? At 4-3, before the goal was disallowed. I was like,
he fucking knows not to message. He knows not to message me at the moment, I'll tell you.
Yes, mate. But they made hard work of it in the end, kind of.
Well, yeah, I suppose so.
The score kind of makes it look like that it was hard work. But if you take a step back, they've just gone and beaten Brighton 4, and they played really well, took their chances well. This was a tough game for them, and they've gone and scored 4, mate. So I think I'm gonna take the 2 goals that Brighton scored with a bit of a pinch of salt, but ultimately Arsenal were the better team, deserved to win, and have got
they deserve to win.
A really good away victory, a really difficult place to go.
That's not in question. Interestingly, though, I didn't turn it off. Like at 4-1, I didn't turn it off. Whereas when they went 3-1 up against you, I was like,
that's because Brighton are a good team. Right?
I have to get this shit off the TV. And it was a bit like that because the game never felt dead. It was a bit weird. Arsenal well deserved to win. It's not in question. Listen, to score 4 goals at Brighton is really, really impressive. It's going to be a tough place, and there's going to be some good teams get beat at the Amex this year. And there's going to be some good teams get beat at home by Brighton, I'm sure, as well. I wish Caicedo had been fit. I've been screaming about it all week, how annoyed I was. And I think it's also credit to Brighton that they really put a performance on without Caicedo and McAllister. And also the fact that they themselves made substitutions, which part led to the carnage at the end, was that like Trossard didn't play well. They took him off. They brought the young boy Evan Ferguson on, which I know like Sam Murray, Brad Lewington, a few other of our Brighton followers have been really big on him as a prospect. Obviously scored Brighton's second goal. But the fact that they ended up with such a youthful team, it didn't really have the fear of what was going on. It just kept trying to throw punches at Arsenal, which was quite amusing. And I think in hindsight, Arteta probably regretted taking off White and Zinchenko at 3-0. And by the way, completely understandable that he did. But Brighton scored straight afterwards. And I think there was a bit of panic very briefly. The 4th goal was obviously crucial. Then they've nicked another goal. And then obviously Mitoma scored again to make it 4-3. And like at that point, I was like, "Shh, babes, you need to be quiet now." And fucking hell, was obviously just slightly offside. It's the right call.
Yeah,
Fair
but
enough.
it's the worst. It's one of the worst ones because it
Nah,
felt like his foot was off, but his body
yeah,
was on.
he's got no advantage of it, but we know. But it's offside. It's offside.
It's annoying.
But Arsenal were about to panic, and it's worth saying that won't be remembered. But there was going to be 4 or 5 minutes there where they were going to panic, and Brighton were going to throw the sink at them. And I half fancied they might do it. Now I don't know what that tells us about the team that's been by far the best team in this league this season. I think what it tells us is that there is some vulnerability there defensively. Like, for example, Saliba, since I've basically said when they played at Chelsea, I'm not sure that he's not the best centre-back in the league already, hasn't played well in a couple of the games since, which includes the win at Wolves. He had some shaky moments.
Gave away the penalty against us. But I don't know if the last 2 games is because he came back so quickly from the World Cup. And maybe he's just not had time to settle a little bit.
That with the Ferguson goal was a little bit alarming, actually. Anyway, he's been outstanding. He's going to have the odd moment because he's still young. But there's definitely some vulnerability beginning to appear a little bit right through the middle of them. And it's not been there all season. Now, I'm nitpicking here because let's be totally honest. They're the best team in this league to watch at the moment. They've been the best team in this league. And I think anybody who's listening is not accepting that Arsenal are in with a real serious chance of winning this league. Get your head out of the sand, honestly. For me right now, after those results yesterday, I would now make them favourites to win it.
I'm not quite there, James, but I'm getting that way. Like if it gets to, it's only 17 games gone. Right? That's the only thing.
I think part of it as well. Here's an interesting debate for you. Haaland, right? Unbelievable. A Man City a better team with him.
That's a debate for another show because we could be here a while with that one. But
just think about it. In fact, I'd ask the listeners to think about it. And I'll sum it up by saying I'm not sure I know the answer, because when you're putting someone in the team who obviously scores that many goals, then how can you not be better? But actually, is it having a negative impact on them? One of the things we speculated in the summer was what will they be like without the ball with Haaland in the team? It cannot be the same in terms of pressing from the front. And I think of things like the game on Saturday. You watched the game, the City game, right? I didn't. So I'll ask you this. So at 1-0, how much intensity did they put on Everton?
No, not enough. Not enough. Agreed. Not enough.
See, they're well capable, and most of the times they do just take it away from teams at that stage. But I do think it's a common theme as well, where they struggle to kind of go to the next gear when they get in front. And I think that's part of it, is defending from the front is a little bit of a problem for them. Whereas Arsenal defensively from the front are the best. Through the spine of the team, it's repetitive. They do need to keep key players fit. Gaard right now is the most informed player in this league. He is on fire. And the only reason not to buy him for me right now is I've made a transfer to buy someone who's got a double, and I'm not sure I can make it happen during Manchester City's double the following week. But that has now got to be a priority for me to try and get that sorted. And I've kind of earmarked in my mind, by the third Arsenal player in game week 22, I possibly need to make that happen earlier. I'm sure it'll be him now to go on top of Martinelli and White. The value is just too good, and he's on fire.
He's really developing well. Let's talk about today's game, James. I know you don't want to do this. Spurs 0, Villa 2.
Oh, great. Fucking eulogizes about Arsenal and then fucking...
I mean, the first thing was a shock at seeing Kulu dropped and Hill playing on the right. Where was he dropped through injury, or we don't know?
So I was writing a piece for our advanced tier patrons.
I read it.
And what did I say?
The last 2 sentences. Got off the bus. Kulu's not playing. Happy New Year, James. Fuck, or something like that. Yeah.
Oh my God. Literally, that's exactly what happened. It's like, fuck. You know, when you see a team and you don't see a team, because there'd been leaks this morning that Eric Dyer wasn't playing. So I've checked. Okay, yeah, that's right. Look at the bottom. Hill's playing. And honestly, it was about 3 seconds before it took my brain. Where the fuck's Decky? Where is he? Where is he? Subs. It's not there. Oh, you're kidding me.
He had a setback.
He's going to have a scan tomorrow, and they're hopeful that he'll play at Palace on Wednesday. I know that Dejan Kulusevski scans tend to be a month out, unfortunately. So if you have gambled on Decky, there's every chance you might get information before deadline, is what I would say. And if he's fine to start at Palace, he'll start at Palace. He won't be one Suj. I don't think he won't be a sub. He'll play or he won't play. It'll be like that. But yeah, that was a blow on top of the Rodrigo Bentancur blow, which was also on Friday. Was he needs to scan now as well. When it was like he'll be back for Villa, and now we don't know how long he's out. And you know what I've been speaking about the last week, and even before that, the glaringly obvious no Rodrigo Bentancur in the team is so fucking obvious. And then add that to all the things we already know about Tottenham without Kulusevski this season as well. And what you end up with is what you've got today. And yeah, panic set in for me as soon as I see the team. I must say a few things on Villa because this will quite easily become 20 minutes on Tottenham. Well deserved to win, no question. Like the off the ball running up front from Watkins and Bailey. I didn't think Bailey had a great game, but constantly wants to run into the channel and stretch. Watkins over the top movement's always been good. The midfield four really kind of retreat into a flatter four without the ball, but particularly Buendia wants to come off the flank and get involved in the 10 position with the ball. Thought he had a lovely game. The back four were pretty solid and untested. I thought Luca Dean had a few iffy moments, but helped he wasn't playing against Kulusevski. The two centre backs were good. I thought Villa's best player and the best player on the pitch by a mile was Boubacar Kamara in midfield. Really, really good. And they really missed him for that period that he was absent. And I'll tell you what, Steven Gerrard might even be in a job if he wasn't, actually. Really, really good at the base of their midfield. Really good partnership with Luiz. It lets Douglas Luiz go and do what he did today, which is have big involvement in the 2 goals. Because like Lee Jackson and our Villa followers who know Villa better than we do have always said, like, Luiz is not really a sitting midfield player. Kamara is. Doesn't give it away. Really good positionally. Clever player. Admired his performance. Really good. And they've got a couple of good games coming up, Villa now. Look, Wolves at home, Leeds at home, Southampton away, Leicester at home. If you were to punt one, it'd probably be Tyrone Mings, I think. Interestingly.
Well, I need to potentially punt one on Wednesday in Sky, James, and that's a conversation we'll be having on a different podcast.
We'll have that conversation on Wednesday's podcast.
There's the interesting thing, I think, from what you're saying, and even for me when I was looking at it, is there are a number that are options potentially. But you think Mings is the best in FPL? Sky,
I just mean defensively. Like, I think offensively, you'd still go to Bailey, wouldn't you? At the value, you can't really look beyond that. Although I think we're getting to the stage with Buendia that he's really worth keeping an eye on. But I mentioned Mings because they've got a couple of good home games. But just looking at Wolves at home next, you think, tell you what, could be something there potentially. And few people might have lingering problems like Reece James. There'll be some people listening now who've given themselves 2 transfers in the bank, and they won't give Villa a second's fault here. And I think maybe they should. Because if you've done that, it could be Mings and Trent or something, if that's what you want to do, right? Or while everyone else is coming off Cancelo, you go on to Cancelo, something like that. So, look, they're clearly going to be better defensively under Unai Emery. He's an extremely good coach. They've won 3 of their 4 games under him. The one they lost was a very enjoyable game against Liverpool, and it includes they beat United, Brighton and Tottenham.
Yeah.
That's really good. Really good. And actually, if you look at the league table, they've just now put themselves a bit of a gap between themselves and Leicester. And if they hadn't had these 3 wins, they'd be right in the fucking shit, actually. But they've got the manager bounce is still going on, and they've got 4 good fixtures. 3 of them are at home, and the one away one is Southampton. They might have a little run here, and I think most people completely overlook them. And I think those who've got nothing better to do this week should give them some serious fault, honestly. Maybe even the goalkeeper, but I think most of us have got Kepa at the moment, so and Ward, so we're not moving that.
Are Spurs totally avoidable from an FPL point of view?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Obviously there's a double coming up. The double coming up is against the two best teams in the league. And I wouldn't be surprised if we lose both those games 3-0, for example. Because those two teams are so comfortably better than us. It would be very typical Tottenham to win at the Etihad. Don't get me wrong. I've seen this script before. But generally speaking, no, it's avoidable. Obviously, if you've got Kane, you're not doing anything with that at the moment. He stays. But I also wouldn't be looking to invest in new. Sonny, I thought I'd saw flashes at Brentford that it might have been coming back. Not today. Defensively was a shambles, which obviously starts with the goalkeeper makes a big error for the first goal. Clement Longley, who was excellent at Brentford, had his worst game for the club. Ben Davis decided to play like he was pissed from the first minute of the game. Cuti Romero had a good first half, a bad second half. I actually thought, again, one player probably would escape criticism. I actually thought Matt Doherty played all right. Look at the subs bench, so weak. No offensive changes available. That's not an excuse in terms of the way we played and the complete. We've obviously been on this run for ages where we keep going 1-0 down or 2-0 down and we keep bringing it back. Literally, you knew today that wasn't happening. The vibe around that place was toxic and awful, and the players couldn't wait to get off that pitch. And there was a few that went into hiding a little bit. Vis Bissouma, he's suspended for the game at Crystal Palace on Wednesday. And I don't know how he's fucking suspended because I don't think he started 5 games.
He played 5 games. I don't even know how he's got 5 yellow cards.
But he's managed to get 5 yellow cards, which of course is absolutely perfect timing. With Bentancur, I presume, is not going to be available. So, I mean, it's bare bones in terms of what we got. What I think he'll do at Palace, he won't play Hill again. He did all right, but he's too weak, reality. And he tries hard. I don't really want to criticise him, but it's not going to work out. He moved Perisic to right wing against in the second half. He's just not comfortable on the right-hand side. Work his socks off Perisic. Fitness levels getting really good, etc. But not great. I think he'll obviously go with the 2 up front if Kulusevski's not available. And there's every chance that he'll play Sarr and Skip and Højbjerg in a midfield fray. And give even more license to the 2 wing backs to get on high. It's the only thing I can think he can do, because actually moving Perisic further forward is making the team even weaker in midfield, and the team's going to be weak in midfield as it is anyway. So I think he'll probably change the system, go 3-5-2. And we're actually going to have to go to Palace and just be negative. This has been coming in the sense that we were having good results prior to the World Cup, largely position in the league acceptable, but it was like one of 2 things was going to have to happen. Either Tottenham's results were going to go and get worse, which to be honest, to say our results before the World Cup were good. The results had been getting worse in the sense that we'd been losing some big games like United, Newcastle, Liverpool, for example, but we hadn't had a result like this. But it was either going to be that Tottenham's results got worse or the performances were going to get much better. And right now, with Kulusevski and Bentancur not in the team, it's actually impossible that the performances are going to be better. So the levelling out is that the results are going to get worse. And today it obviously got toxic in the stadium. There wasn't calls for the manager to go. Although
he's going in the summer anyway.
He's, as usual, positioning himself politically, which seems to be based off this rumour that Tottenham have a budget of 30 million in this window, which people think is a piss take.
Yeah,
I do think it's worth remembering that a lot of people thought that Tottenham had an incredible summer transfer window and actually spent quite a lot of money. And I think they're acutely aware that they themselves may not offer Antonio Conte an extension in the summer. They can automatically trigger an extra 1 year if he doesn't agree to a deal now. What's been offered on the table may get taken off, because very clearly in the ground today was being sung, Daniel Levy, get out of our club. So the last time that happened, Nuno got sacked within hours. They had to do something, right? And they appointed Conte in quick, and everything was okay. I'm not sure it's going to be that simple this time.
We'll get into more detail in Tottenham definitely on Wednesday. And
let's
when the
let's do the double.
Settled. Nottingham Forest 1, Chelsea 1. James, you want to give people a rundown on this game and how it went?
Well, I only watched the second half, so to me, it looked like Forest should have won about 4-0. But I understand that wasn't the case in the first half. I watched the first 5 minutes on my phone just to see how Chelsea was setting up. Suj just decided to run away from the door for some reason. I watched the first 5 minutes on my phone just to get an idea of how Chelsea was setting up. I was keen to see what would happen with Cucurella and him positionally. And I thought Chelsea would play a more nominal back four rather than him dropping in and Reece James pushing up from right wing back. They didn't have the personnel to do that sort of thing. So it looked like a flat of four with Zakaria and obviously Jorginho sitting in front. But I didn't, to be honest, listeners, I did not have the heart to be watching that game having watched Spurs because I just had no interest in what was going on. So I seen the goal, which was a bit car crashy from Bolly's reverse Giroud Mkhitaryan up in the air scorpion kick that landed on the bar, and obviously Sterling's finished the rebound. I did watch the second half. I can't say I was overly invested in it. What I did see of it, Forest looked quite good, and it wasn't a surprise when they equalised. Very well taken goal by Serge Aurier, who's obviously along the list of world-class Tottenham right-backs that I've seen in my lifetime. But they were certainly value for the draw. Over to you, Suj, because you got no idea what I just said. That's going to catch you on a hop.
Well, you just said that Nottingham Forest were good value for the draw. But would you take Serge Aurier back, right back?
I literally just said he's among the list of the all-time great Tottenham right backs that I've obviously seen in my lifetime. No, I was saying I'd watched the first 5 minutes on my phone and it wasn't. I think Potter doesn't like setting Chelsea up like that, but was limited because of personnel, where they played just more like a functional flat four like we'd normally see with other teams and stuff. But I wasn't overly invested in it. Forest is going to be a difficult game for many teams who go there. Atmosphere there is strong. I hear that all the time when like journalists go there. They go, "It's great atmosphere at the City Ground." I've been there twice this year. Great atmosphere, really good.
Yep.
They'll give some teams some problems there this year. That said, if they don't fix their away form, they will go down because they won't do enough at home.
Chelsea, I mean, top four for them is non-existent, isn't it, really? Even Europe. I mean, if you look at the quality of the other teams, right? Arsenal City got 2 places signed up. Newcastle, Manchester United, even Liverpool, they're all playing way better.
I think...
I don't know if Liverpool are way better, but they're definitely more consistent.
They're obviously getting Badiashile in from Monaco, left-sided centre-back, who I'm sure Chelsea just buy left-sided centre-backs when Tottenham want one. I'm just sure that's what happens. Look, if they can get themselves where they're close and suddenly you're putting a fit Reece James, a fit Ben Chilwell and a fit N'Golo Kante back in that team, why not? But the team as it is right now is too weak. That's what struck me watching the second half again, was like I expect Chelsea to be more clinical and ruthless and aggressive. Aggressive is the main one. Go back to that fixture against Arsenal in game week 15, looks so weak. They're a little bit of a way off what I expect a Chelsea team to be at the moment. That said, everything that they've been conditioned to do under Tuchel is so around the role of the wing backs and N'Golo Kante. And right now they don't have that available to them. So I don't think we should be that shocked that they're going to struggle. From an FPL perspective, I've got Kepa. He's the best Chelsea asset you can have right now. That's not to say that people should thump to get him in their team if they haven't got him. But for me, that's the best asset right now. And I haven't got a lot of interest in anyone else. I think if I wanted to punt something this week offensively, Mount.
You just answered under Mike Cucurella's. No, it was FPL Maldini. Who's the better option for a double, Mount or Sterling? You think Mount?
Well, Mount, because Sterling's not worth that amount of money.
No.
And at least with Mount, you're in and around, move that straight on to Saka or Kulusevski when he's back fit. Foden, move it straight onto Foden's double, whatever. Which obviously, look, if you've got the money in the bank, you can go Sterling, then you can drop to Foden, like whatever, it's fine. But if you get stuck, I wouldn't want to be stuck around that value. Mount, you could decide to look at and go, well, it's Palace at home afterwards, I'll keep. And then there's Fulham at home a couple of weeks after. And Chelsea's home fixtures till the end of the season are really good, by the way. So I think Mount at his value consistent is fine. I think, to be honest, Havertz arguably is the best one, but there's no way in the world I'd pick him over Mitrovic. And so would I be investing in Mitrovic and Havertz this week? No. If I was sitting there with let's try and do an example. Let's say I was sitting there right now with Haaland, Mitrovic, and Martial. If I could move that to Havertz this week, I probably would.
Martial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't move it to Havertz rather than Mitrovic. It would have to
understood.
It would have to be together with. I don't think I'd move. I was going to say Darwin Núñez is another one, isn't it? But I don't think I would. I don't think I'd go Núñez to Havertz. I don't think I'd bother. I think I'd rather keep the chaos with Núñez. So no, I'm not overly interested. I think, to be honest, if teams are trying to put themselves in a position where they've got 6 players between Fulham and Chelsea, I think all you're doing is you're going to put yourself in a really awkward position. I presume you're not going to put yourself in a position where you've got 6 Man City and 6 Tottenham the following week.
No.
Let's not overlook that Arsenal were doing great. I think we can overlook buying Newcastle this week because they're playing Arsenal. But yeah, I think we can get a bit blinded by the doubles here and stuff. If I had to buy Cucurella or an Arsenal defender this week, I'd buy an Arsenal defender.
Understood. Stick with the quality teams over the fixtures sometimes is the best strategy.
I think of the defensive ones, he's probably the one to get, Cucurella. But I'm not that fussed about going in for Chelsea. I think the best 3, if I was free hitting this week, I'd probably go Kepa, Mount, Havertz. And I would go Mitrovic, Pereira, and I'd probably punt Ream just to have a chance of something defensively. But I'd arguably maybe go Willian or Deckled over Reed, to be honest.
Tell me, James, what's the plan for the first couple of days of this week before we get back into a pod? Just so the listeners know what they've got to look at. I have had a look through the questions on Twitter, James. There isn't anything that we haven't covered off, to be honest with you. Yeah, there's a few kind of, should I sell Kulusevski and that kind of stuff? Well, yeah, if he's got a scan, then I think your best bet is to move him on.
Can someone find him a horse tranquilizer or something and get him back on the pitch?
Yeah. Tomorrow, we've obviously got the 4 o'clock deadline. You're not doing a deadline stream tomorrow. Your plan is to? Lovely, jubbly. Look at that.
3 o'clock.
2:30? Oh, 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
An hour before deadline, youtube.com/Planet FPL. You'll be able to subscribe and listen to James's deadline stream tomorrow. We're going to be reviewing the games on Thursday, right? Before the Thursday night game, which is Chelsea City. Or you want to do it on Friday?
No. We're going to do it on Friday.
This is where the listeners find out we haven't even talked about what the plan is this week.
No, because we don't. I just tell Suj and he nods.
I see a tweet every now and then.
Tuesday. We've not spoken about him, but we will.
And we should.
We don't just dish out podcasts for individuals willy-nilly, but the king deserves a podcast. So we will do a podcast on Pele and his career on Tuesday for you. Wednesday will be Sky Fantasy. Thursday is no Clash of the Correspondents this week. That's part intentional. I've timed this quite well. I do have 2 guests on though, and they are both correspondents for a special podcast titled The EFL's Top 2. Burnley correspondent Jack Toner and Sheffield United correspondent Ben Tomo Thompson will be joining me on Thursday to discuss those 2 teams who are blitzing it in the Championship at the moment. And I can tell you now, they are going to finish 1 or 2. And I want to see if they agree with that or not. Because I really think they're going to pull away, and they're both going to get promoted quite comfortably, it looks like to me at the moment. Although something does tend to go wrong in that league for someone somewhere. Friday, we will review all the games, and it's FA Cup next weekend, Suj, so it's Friday, and then everyone's got it for the whole weekend and stuff. Nice. Patreon podcast, we've got our differential show tomorrow on Monday with obviously the Game Week 19 preview. We'll have that out early in the morning for our patrons, and that's all patrons this month, as Suj will explain very, very shortly. Tuesday, what are we doing on Tuesday, Suj? What do we normally do on
Money in
Tuesday?
football or something along those lines?
I need to think about it, but we'll do Tottenham Wednesday and Thursday because we said we would.
Yeah,
we'll,
indeed. And Friday.
we'll do something on Friday as well. But I'll be honest, it's been a bit hectic. I've not thought about it, but I will
James
post the
hasn't been
schedule
well.
on Twitter.
You've been
No, I've
powering
not been
through,
well,
mate. Super impressed.
and Tottenham haven't helped me. Listen, I don't do sick. This is why I sound terrible as well, because I'm proper man flu and I feel sorry for me.
There we go, listeners. James just mentioned there our Patreon. If you do want to support the show, now is a good time to do it. It is the start of the month. You can head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. It helps support the show, keep the lights on, all that kind of stuff. We have 3 tiers there: basic, intermediate, advanced. In the month of January, whichever tier you sign up to, you get all of the content and benefits of the tier above. So basic tier are going to get everything for intermediate tier. Intermediate tier are going to get everything for advanced, and advanced members are going to get even more stuff this month as well, which means you get access to our Slack channel. At basic and intermediate, you'll get access to all of our additional podcasts. Intermediate, advanced, you get additional video content, talking tactics, 5 minutes added on, all of that kind of stuff as well. Well worth looking into. There's prize leagues as well that people can be part of. So if you are interested in supporting the show, you do enjoy what we're doing, give it a try. Now's a good month to do it. You'll see what we're all about. And of course, if you don't like it, no pressure to stay. And if you do, we'd love to have you as part of the community. But that, James, I think is a wrap.
No, it's not. Basic tier costs £3 a month. Can't even buy a coffee in London for less than £3, and you're going to get 22 podcasts this month.
Sales pitch.
Buy me and Suj a coffee, you bastards.
Yes, I think this is a good month to try it out. Let's see if any of you do want to come and join. Slack's a really good place where so many of our community help each other out. And we've got different fans of different clubs that can always give you a fan's perspective on an individual team as well. So
yeah, that Arsenal channel's getting fucking cancelled soon. I'm telling you that. They're all way too happy now.
I reckon there's some joy in there at the moment. Let them have it. They've had a lot of misery. Listeners, thank you so much for your support.
No.
Once again, Happy New Year. Let's make sure that it's a great one for everybody. And hope you are all staying safe. Look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Just realised Tottenham are playing again in 3 days. It's a bit shit, isn't it? Happy New Year, everyone. As always, play it your way and be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child.